So this is one of the three managers that has been linked with the move to Manchester United. Now, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer potentially an option. United would, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer would be very very welcomed at Manchester United and would do anything to help the club. Now we know Manchester United are aiming to appoint a caretaker manager until the end of the season with a view to making a permanent longer term appointment in the summer. Darren Fletcher is due to take temporary charge for the Burnley game and possibly Sunday's FA Cup tie versus Brighton. But Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has emerged as one of those players to come a caretaker, interim, whatever you want to call it. And Ollie is someone who, again, we know understands the club. Was actually obviously a manager at the club in that time, and he'd bring the vibes back. I think he'd be very good at getting a lot out of this squad, which has struggled, and it has very very good players in there. And I think he'd be able to do that 4-2-3-1 counter attacking energy. He understands the Manchester United way. But I think in terms of if United are going to bring in an interim, it would be someone who has already managed at the club before, in terms of, I would say ex-player, sorry, an ex-player that has previously been at the club and has that experience, because it makes sense. You're not going to go out and get a top level manager to the end of the season, kind of to keep the club warm and just do that. You're not going to do that. So Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is the one. We know the football that he plays is counter attacking, is high energy, is aggressive, is pressing, and he scores goals. And I think his tenure at United was kind of masked with kind of not winning that Europa League, but there were some good moments and there were some good moments. And again, you look at how he got the job. It was an interim basis first. Then he obviously went to the permanent basis, and we've seen how that worked out and all the. But I think he definitely bring the vibes, the quality back to this squad, and I think it'd be something that United have missed, and it'd be quite refreshing. And he'd be someone to definitely look at from now to the end of the season, and he would kind of help the club in any way that he could. And we know the formation, you know what he's going to get out of these players. And again, he'd be definitely an option for me that United look to bring in, because he has a lot of quality. Yeah, he would have a lot of quality. He gets the football club now. Again, another manager you can look at is Darren Fletcher, who again is currently the interim at Manchester United. He's due to take charge of the next few games, Brighton and Burnley. He led his first training session today, so he is someone who potentially would be able to get the best out of the players. Obviously, he's playing 4-3-3. He said he likes that high energy football. He gets the club a lot, and he's someone who the hierarchy have definitely looked at as someone to bring in. Now, what I would say about Darren Fletcher, does have inexperience, but it'd be someone who would probably get a few assistants in, ex-players, to kind of help him with that. And I think it'd probably be a good idea to look at Darren Fletcher, see how the interim or the 2 games, whatever, how many games he has as a Manchester United manager. But again, I think it'd be a good experience to him. He's done a very good job with under-18s, some good performances. He's developed some good players. Obviously, his two sons, Jack and Tyler Fletcher, are part of the Manchester United first team now, which again will be good for him, and I bet they're buzzing. But I think Darren Fletcher is someone who again was part of one of Manchester United's most successful teams, and was coached by obviously Alex Ferguson. That doesn't mean he's going to be a good manager, but again, that does give him in good state, and I think he will be someone who wants to do well at Manchester United, obviously. And you look at all the interims that we've had: Carrick, Voodoo and Nistelrooy. Darren Fletcher is someone who gets the club, and the formation that he's going to play will be a 4-3-3. And I think you look at sort of the players that you have, you would see Kobe back in the team, Bruno potentially in the number 10, and Burmo Cunha. You would see that high energy, aggressive, fast playing football, which is something that United have wanted and needed to see at the club for a while. I think the football under Amram was too pragmatic, too defensive, and ultimately not the way which Manchester United was built, which was high energy, aggressive football. And I'm not saying Darren Fletcher's going to come in and play that, but he gets the club and he knows what's going to be needed in the short term. And I think results are the most important thing, because you want to see a good end to the season, potentially get Europe, potentially be fighting for those top places, and potentially win the FA Cup, seeing how that game goes on Sunday. But Darren Fletcher is definitely one to look at. He's someone who knows the club, like all the three managers that I've talked about right now, but he is someone who I think gets the club a lot, and depending on how the interim goes, will determine whether he does get that job or not. Now, the last guy I'm going to talk about is Carrick, someone who I think he managed 3 games. I think it was Chelsea, Arsenal, and I think Villarreal, and I think he won all the games, or definitely had 100%. He didn't lose a game at the football club. Now, Carrick was someone who was at Middlesbrough, I believe. He had a very good record with them, but then ended up getting sacked. We know he, again, is another ex-player, someone who gets the club. And from now until the summer, I think he'd be happy to step in. Again, he had a very good record as a Manchester United manager, and I think he'd definitely be one to look at in terms of getting him to the football club as an option. And again, he's another option. He's someone you can bring in short term basis. Would be happy to take that. I think in terms of Carrick, I know a lot of fans would. I think a lot of fans would prefer Ollie just based on the fact that he's been. Obviously, I know Carrick has been an interim before, but Carrick has been a manager at the club before. And he gets the club. I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, he'd bring some nostalgia, quick counters, vertical build up. If you put Carrick and Fletcher there as well, I think you could potentially get those three as a three, potentially at the club, which would be very, very good. But yeah, I think a lot of people, what I'm looking online now is Carrick, Fletcher, and Ollie as the next three. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I think obviously McKenna, someone who's been linked as well, he's doing a good job with Ipswich. He plays a good formation, 4-2-3-1. I don't think he would leave for United. Because Ipswich are doing very, very well. But yeah, Carrick is one of the top contenders to become a manager, caretaker manager from United from now to the end of the season. So we will have to wait and see what does happen with Carrick. But he certainly is an interesting option. Are they the three managers that I've kind of looked at as the main three? Ollie, Fletcher and Carrick as the main three to take on for Manchester United as the caretaker manager from now until the end of the window. Let me know your thoughts. Who would you want to bring in out of those three? Because I think in terms of from now to the end of the season, it's going to be one of those three, or Ruud van Nistelrooy, or it's going to be someone of an ex-player of sort, because there's someone who will be happy to take the role from now until the summer and then potentially leave or stay on some sort of basis. But all the coaches have gone at United, and Darren Fletcher will speak to the media tomorrow, so we will have to wait and see what he says. My ideal choice out of those three would be Ollie, and maybe have Carrick and Fletcher with him as coaches. Why not? I think it'd be good to get that nostalgia back and some good feeling around the club, because I think those are people who get the club. But let me know your thoughts.